The FNRad Snowboard Podcast is sponsored by Wired Snowboards from Vancouver, BC. All I've ridden all year is Wired, and I'm having an amazing season. You can get a Wired board or anything else you need for snowboarding at the Boardroom Snowboard Shop, so go to boardroomshop.com. Support also comes from Grouse Mountain, Van Snowboard Boots, Anon Goggles, and Dakine. I'll be announcing the winner of the Dakine backpack at the end of the show, so stay tuned or skip to the end if you think you might have won.
It was a totally fun time, didn't get too gnarly.
I kind of look at the Mystery Air as an improved evolution of the Switchblade.
Snowboarding is ours.
And obviously I like working with Burton.
As an old school snowboarder, you get so used to being treated as a second-class citizen.
And I was like, how do you spell your last name? He said Kelly. And I was like, oh, we should get married. And he's like, no, too symmetrical.
Jeff Keenan is a soft-spoken Seymour local who now lives in Whistler. He and his friend Sean run Dinosaurs Will Die snowboards, and he's involved with the annual Baked Salmon race at Mount Seymour. For our interview, we hiked into a cabin on Mount Seymour where Nick Haranga kept the fire going while we chatted. I started out our conversation asking how long was his drive down from Whistler.
I don't even know. It's like, I do it so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like in your sleep.
Yeah, it doesn't even matter anymore. It could be like 2 hours or it could be like an hour and 15. It feels the same.
Are you warm enough to take off the jacket?
Yeah.
You hear the jacket in there?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I remember like I was living up there 5 years ago and commuting every day.
What?
Like not every day, but like 3 times a week.
What were you
for school
for?
And work, like both?
I can't imagine. Actually, you know what? After driving to Revy, I can see it.
Yeah,
I drove to Revy 6 times.
Yeah,
in a month, and it feels like. Oh, I mean, I drove all the way to Banff one time.
Need to lower this. Yeah,
and the second time I did it, I was like, I'm not going the third time.
Really?
Yeah.
See, that's my time, man. Like, that's... When I'm in the road, that's when I'm thinking and knowing... Like, I don't talk on the phone when I drive. I just, like, straight up think. And then, like, roll through the mountains and, like, take it in. Like, I'll drive to, like, Banff, go to Golden, and then go sled all day, and then drive home and be home at 3 a.m. and be totally, like, mellow if I'm driving. If I'm not driving, I'm narcoleptic and sleeping in the front seat.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did the drive. Oh, fuck, dude. I left on Saturday morning, got to Al's house at 4:30, I think. And then we drove out to the hot springs.
Oh, yeah.
And then back. And then we stayed up until 1 in the morning. We got up at... No, we stayed up till 2. Some people stayed up way later.
Yeah.
We got up at 6. And then cat boarded. We had breakfast at 7, and cat boarded until 4:30.
Yeah.
And then I got in my car and I drove home.
Damn.
And I went to work the next day. It's doable, but that was when I said I'm not doing it again. Like 3 days later.
Yeah.
But someone else drove, and it seemed like it went by like nothing. Then.
That's the thing, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's different. And the weather, if it's like I hate the Coke. I'll do Duffy any day, but...
Wow, really?
Yeah. I just don't like the Star Wars and trucks. And
I hated the Star Wars.
Yeah.
That was the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Dude, I don't know, like, I used to go to Banff every fall. When would that be? It'd be like November till Whistler Open.
Yeah.
Stay with Hardingham and Jonas. And
How
then,
cool was that?
It's sick. That was like my warm-up always. Like, I'd go there and then just be with those guys, and then I'd be like, okay, stuff's opening on the coast, I'm going back.
Right.
And it was so sick.
Yeah, they opened quite a bit earlier than us, like fairly consistently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it would be like first week of November or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's rad.
Which is cool, because
Yeah.
you get like those guys are on like a different level than like us, so you're just like, go there and I feel like you're throwing yourself into like the season and that like Alberta Rocky mentality.
Yeah.
That when you come home, you're just like, cool, this is like what I want to be in. It's, I don't know. I guess it's like elevation gain. When you're in high elevation, then you go back to sea level, you feel like 100%.
Yeah. Have you ever had that on a trip where you wind up like I had it in Utah, and I think I had it in Oregon, where I got that like altitude sickness. I felt like shit.
Yeah, man. We do it because, man, I've been going to SIA for years and years and years, and then when it went to Denver, we went to Copper all the time, and that would just kill you. So if you're sick from shaking hands and high-fiving and you go up to Copper, that, like, it can hit you so hard.
Yeah.
And then, like, when you come back home, it's like your lungs just open up. You're like, I'm a sea level guy.
I'm a sea level guy. I love it.
You're like, I love mountains and I'm a mountain guy, but I need to be in the, like, Northwest. I need that damp air.
Yeah, yeah. Do you get good POW out here? Obviously you do.
Yeah.
But, like, that blower POW that you can get in, say, Utah, you know, that really dusty, super light stuff. Do you guys sometimes get that up in Whistler?
No, it's different. It's better.
I think it's
like,
better.
Okay, so we went to Sunshine for a demo because my world revolves around events to sell snowboards. Yeah, and it snowed 3 feet, and we stayed up at the hotel up on Sunshine, and they were like, oh, the road's closed, no one can come up, but you guys can hike. So we hiked like a few zones, put it in a boot pack, and I'm like, this is insane. It's actually like almost waist deep. This is going to be the sickest run ever. And I was with like just a bunch of like reps like Tony and Dylan and all those guys, and like some shredders like Suderman and them. And you drop in, and I ollie, and I like sink 3 feet and hit hard bottom, like ice rocky bottom. I'm like, dude, bring me to the coast, because it's like I'd rather snowboard denser snow, and not feel bottom than ride 3 feet of blower and feel bottom. Like, everyone is like Champagne POW, and I'm like, cool. Coastal POW.
Coastal POW all the way, man.
Yeah.
Like 2-day-old seasoned coastal POW somewhere where it hasn't been wind affected. It's just like still, it's been cold the whole time, and it's just settled nicely.
Yeah.
That's the best shit.
Yeah, it's a little denser. And yeah, it just feels cool.
Hero snow, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's totally what it feels like. Yeah, because I rode the beginning of this season up here, and it had rained and then froze, and then it only snowed, 20 centimeters on top. So, like, if that was 20 centimeters of blower, it wouldn't have been very good.
Yeah.
But it was that West Coast perfect shit. It was like a perfect day. It was really fun.
It's cool. I did my Ops 1 this year.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? It's an 8-day course. It was hard to do when you're running dynos, but I was working at night at the Logic and going emails and do that stuff. And it was like the constant fight between the Rocky instructor and the coastal instructor of like, it's like a battle. So this like is not our battle. This is like dating back to like the first people. They like, fast it's this, fast it's that, and then coastal people are like, screw it, it's just like dense snowpack and we're good to go. Like, we worry about different things than them, and it's cool.
Yeah, definitely. Revy gets that hoarfrost layer, and once that's there, it can screw up everything. Right? It's really dangerous, and people are scared to go out. And we don't get that. We just get this big lump of consolidated mush. Yeah,
exactly.
It's the best. So where did you grow up? You grew up not that far from here.
No. So the story's kind of, I kept it at like such a quiet thing when I was a kid. I was like born in Ontario and lived there, and like everyone thinks I'm like a BC kid.
Oh, BC. Yeah, totally.
And then my dad got transferred here in the early 90s.
Oh,
so
wow.
like my first time snowboarding was in Killington. Like, I'm from Oshawa, like blue collar Oshawa.
Yep.
And I rode Dagmar, I think. I don't even think I rode Dagmar. I think I rode a hill behind the house. And like my first time snowboarding was like 88 or 9 at Killington. We went on a family trip, and I was like, saw some dude going down the run. I'm like, oh, that looks cool. I want to do that. And like, shit, we went to the rental center, and it was like a Craig Kelly Air Mini was the rental board.
Sick.
And they had the photo up until like, I don't know, 10 years ago, and I lost it, and it was just like Craig Kelly Air rental board. Like, that was it. And I was like, this is cool. And then, so my dad got transferred, and he got transferred to North Van. He got transferred to here, Seymour.
Sick.
And yeah, it was cool because we lived in Blue Ridge for a bit, and then the whole goal, like even when we moved here, my parents were like, "You guys are going to the Cove for school. You're not going to these other schools that are like closer to where we live because we're going to go live down there." And we moved to the Cove probably when I was like 14 or 15.
Wow.
And like that's when we were going to Sea Cove, and that's when Sea Cove was like Devin Walsh and Kevin and all these like legendary people out of one school. I don't know if Devin went to Sea Cove really, but like all these snowboarders are coming up through that school.
Yeah.
And you're watching like 2020 and all these cool snowboard videos, and they're like going to the high school and you're in the elementary school beside them, or like you're like in grade 8 and they're like graduating. And you're like, man, this is insane.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So
That's
Seymour,
so
it's like I grew up in Ontario, but Seymour's like where like everything happened. Like
yeah. Yeah.
First time I got laid on Seymour. First time I got drunk on Seymour. First time like everything is Seymour. So like
That's amazing.
I like bleed the place even though I'm not here as much as I want to be, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And for listeners that don't know, there's 3 local mountains in Vancouver.
Yeah.
Cypress, Grouse, Seymour. Seymour definitely has the best reputation. It's got the best riders, it's got the best side hits, but as far as elevation and terrain goes, like for steep stuff, it just really isn't there.
No, so yeah, that's not to blow up, but that's like Cypress is that spot. And there's like Hippie and Lepore and all those guys were like Cypress Flag. And
Totally.
Like that's a little older. Well, it's a mixed generation
Yep.
with those two. But it's not steep here, but this place isn't about the steep. It's like you look at Baker and you take Baker and you shrink it down.
Yeah.
And that's Seymour. It's either going to be like, for anyone that comes here, it's going to be your worst day ever. And you'd be like, I don't get this place. Or you get in with the crew on your first lap. Because everyone here is friendly. Yep. You get in with the crew and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, this is like the best place ever.
Unbelievable. The things that are hidden in plain sight at Mount Seymour.
Yeah.
And I think it 100% is the riders. Like, we're given some sort of leeway in the beginning that just didn't happen at the other 2 mountains. Also, there isn't stuff to build at the other 2 mountains.
Yeah.
That, you know, the hits that are up here are fucking epic.
Yeah, I think it starts with the side hits, right?
Side hits 100%.
And that's kind of, I think that was the start of all Seymour. And that's kind of what bred the rider to be, like a Seymour rider has tranny skills.
Yep.
But I'm going to say it, that we never really had a half pipe, even though
it's still there.
It's still there. It worked one night for a Vans contest, and that's it.
Yeah,
there wasn't. But, like, everyone's a good tranny rider.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. And everyone rides fast, like, because you're milking it, too.
Yeah.
You're milking as much speed as you can.
Yeah, because if you bail on the first hit, you're not hitting the next 2.
Yeah.
So that's how it goes.
Yeah. So many people came out of Seymour. And then I can't even think of a handful out of the other 2 mountains combined.
No, there's not much. But there are, like Chris Steves. And
yep.
I'm just dropping. He got a cover at Cypress, actually.
It's true.
Yeah, Transworld cover. And then I guess Spencer and Scott were from Grouse. And then that's like my generation. And then later I feel like there's like all the Ontario boys, real Grouse, like Jesse Fox and those guys.
Yeah, that's true.
So true. Like them other mountains have their thing, and like I like the people at the Grouse Park and like Marcus really and those guys. Those guys are good. Yeah. I don't really know people at Cypress, but I know what it's about.
Yeah.
But you come here and man, I don't even know what to say. It's like I can come here, and I think I've said it 100 times, but you can come here and not call anyone.
Yeah.
And then get on a chair and you're riding with like 3 of your best friends.
Totally.
Or maybe you're riding with someone that like you know, but you've never ridden with, and then this is your first time, and you're like, man, like how haven't we done this yet?
Yeah. The vibe in the parking lot is good. Like just the whole experience up Seymour it's always been incredible.
Yeah, that's Eddie Lee, right?
That's it.
Yeah, he's like, so Eddie's he's the owner.
Yep.
And
I don't know exactly what the Woods family history is up here.
Yeah, I don't want to say because I don't want to get it wrong. And
right, exactly, same. But he is here all the time, and on good days, he's riding the lifts, and he's got a smile on his face.
Oh, yeah.
And he supported that whole Seymour kids, Skids, Wildcats, like all the way through.
Everything. there's like that old, it's like a viral video of some guy like making fun of snowboarders and stuff. And that's from here.
That's from here.
And no one ever like claims that Seymour. And it's like, that was Eddie saying, yeah, you can do that, you know?
Yeah.
That's pretty my generation here, though.
Yeah.
I'd be at whatever, at the East, I'd be like 8 or 9. Then.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm like the second. I'm like the bridge, I think.
Sure.
Between the generations, like Kevin and Devin and those guys. Like Kevin did a lot in my like kind of life as a snowboarder. He helped me out a lot, but that's
what a great guy.
Yeah.
I can't wait to have him on the show.
Yeah, he has some stories, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean he got badly hurt up here.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
That was a big moment.
Yeah, that was a heavy one.
It was a heavy
I wasn't
one,
there
yeah.
then. I knew him then, but
Yeah.
those guys were film, but I wouldn't be filming with them till later in years. Like, even when I got a sled, like I've been sledding in BC since '98. I think it's like when it started, and I'd have like one of those old ski days and stuff, and then like everyone knew avalanche skills and everyone knew that, but like the mentality was way more just different. So like I'd go up with the crews and my sled wouldn't make it ever.
God.
And I get stuck in these icy ruts, and then everyone would leave me. And then I'd be there for like hours, and I have to either go home or try to like hit this thing until I can get up and go find a crew, where like nowadays you never leave a man behind.
No.
It's nothing you do. But back then it was like I'd be stuck there, and then all of a sudden like Devin and Kearns and that crew would rip by, and I'm just like, man, I'm like, I just want to ride with my friends at Seymour. I want to ride with like my brother and those guys and not be doing this.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something that I talk about a lot on the show, but sometimes going to Whistler for me was just not, it just wasn't all that it had to be to justify going that far.
Yeah.
So I'd go up there and I'd be riding with people saying, dude, we can get like a section this long at Grouse all to ourselves for the whole morning.
Yeah.
Like here we missed it by one run and it's gone.
Exactly.
So now we're going to another place that we missed by one run. Now it's gone. So like, why the hell are we wasting our time here? I'd rather just be at home, because I can be home eating food at my house at noon, doing more than what we've done up here all day. And then that's a dumb way to look at it, because Whistler is a completely different caliber of mountain.
Yeah.
And when you hit it good, and it's a good day,
then it's really good.
It's insanely good.
Yeah, that's where I live now. But like, we were talking about this earlier. Me and Brendan and Viner and Standish and that crew, we were all Baker boys more than Whistler boys. Like, we were in high school, and on weekends we go to Baker.
Yeah.
And we hike grannies, and we go on the resort and go rip, like, all these things, because it was like Seymour on crack.
Yeah.
Like, we wouldn't go to Whistler. Like, that just wouldn't happen until like sleds got introduced in our life. And then that's when we're like, okay, cool. It wasn't really the resort. It was more the backcountry access that drew me up there. And now I couldn't think of living anywhere else, because like I love resort towns. Like, so many people are like anti-resort towns. They're
Terrier was like, I've never lived in a resort town.
Yeah.
And I was like, really?
Yeah.
That's weird.
It's funny, and it's like a weird mentality, and people are just like, I like the city. Like, screw resort towns, screw the like commercialization of this and that. And I'm like, okay, yeah, there's that side. But there's also the side that I'm living in the mountains. I open my door, it snowed a foot, my truck's covered, it's Bluebird. Like, the trees are caked in snow. I want to be in that situation every morning. Even if I go back to my computer and work, I want to see that compared to opening up and seeing like a transport truck and like a line of cars going this way and Tim Hortons light flashing and all this other crap. Like, to me, the tranquility of like a resort town means so much more than like being in the city.
That's rad.
Yeah.
I guess if I had to say what I am, I'm a city guy for sure. But I need to be in a city where there's hills. Like, Vancouver's a very unique spot.
Yeah.
That you can, you can be in this cabin, and then you can sleep in your bed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. I got off the plane in Vancouver and felt like I was on vacation I've been out here 25 years. And I felt like I was on vacation for like 20 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'm just starting to feel like this is where I live.
This is it.
Yeah, I've just been on vacation the whole time, man.
It's easy. You have mountains and ocean. That's the dream. People like want to retire, and everyone thinks it's like this tropical thing that you want to like retire on a beach, or you want to be by the ocean, or you want to be in the mountains. It's like Vancouver and this zone is like, you're here. This is it. This is like how lame this sounds because it's like commercialization. This is like Quicksilver. This is like the friggin' wave going over the mountain. It's like cheesy as fuck for sure, but like that is how I see this place. It's like when like on an environmental standpoint, this is where everything is lush, and this is where the ocean is coming into the mountains. This is where like the salmon history is here. The animals that are here are like wild. Like this is like the gateway as much as like Alaska is, but this is like the last major city. Yeah.
I like things like Pool 99. I'd always heard about it, and I'd never gone. I thought I didn't know where it was. Yeah. And then I found it, or Matt showed me this year, or told me, and I was just there by myself looking at the cliff going, oh, fuck, that's massive, and what a beautiful zone. And this fireman from West Van, the fire chief from West Van comes up, and I'm like, oh, no, am I in trouble? He's like, are you a good swimmer? And I was like, yeah. And he took me and his buddy an hour up the river, like walking up and swimming up and going over all these fucking cool cliffs that have like a little rope you got to hang on to.
Yeah, fully.
And we walked up to where the rock slide happened and took out the bridge, and I was like, that was like, oh my God, you can't pay to have that kind of an adventure anywhere. You know what I mean? It was fucking awesome.
Yeah, you go up there and that rock slide is like a dam for the salmon.
Oh, fuck. Hold on.
Technical difficulties here.
Yeah, we're back from the disaster.
Cool.
This cabin is sick, hey?
Yeah, this is insane.
So, Crystal from Intuition, have you ever used Intuition liners?
Yeah,
and you can move this thing.
I just don't want to mess it up. I rode 32 from like
there you go,
really early until I rode those boots for a while, and they were like the first to do Intuition, right?
Yeah. So Intuition was invented. Intuition was invented in Vancouver. And Vans was going to put them in their boots, but then Vans screwed over Intuition and used some cheaper foam.
Yeah.
And then tried to heat mold that, and those liners would just shrink.
Okay.
And so then heat molding liners had a bad rep for a little bit.
Yeah.
And 32, it's Pierre Andre, right?
Yeah, it's Pierre.
Yeah, so he was like, okay, we're going to put your liners in every single boot that we make. And I think that partnership actually built Intuition.
For sure.
Yeah.
Because, like, ski boots weren't even using that.
No,
now I saw it on that, like, a few years ago. I was like, whoa, these guys are, like, doing it. It's
water
like,
ski boots and wakeboard boots and all that, and hiking boots and all sorts of shit. Now,
yeah. That partnership probably worked two ways, too. Like, I feel like it was, like, how 32 kind of blew up, you know?
I agree.
And then it did the same for Intuition, which is cool.
Yeah, yeah. It's so great when it's small companies making it and then not selling out. Like, we've got a history in snowboarding. You were talking about fucking Kemper, right?
Yeah.
I have, you know what? I'm talking about it because it came up today. So friends of ours, Graham and Grantley, bought some wired boards.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, make sure you get the ones that are made in Vancouver, right? Because Rob does make some in China.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so like when he worked for Endeavor, he I don't know if he found the factories over there or he just still has the connections over there.
Yeah.
But like when you get where are your boards made? Austria, yeah?
In Capita, yeah.
Yeah.
There's like not that many factories left, but then honestly, more and more are like opening the doors to like factories like a few Austrian ones there's an Austrian one that used to do Burton.
Yeah.
Starting to open their doors for other people. And,
interesting.
Yeah, but in China, yeah, he's probably making it with Titan, which is a good, like a lot of people, they produce a lot of boards, and probably like if you've ridden 4 or 5 different companies, you've probably ridden one of the boards to come out of that factory at some point, you know?
So, like, I don't think most people could tell the difference. I don't think they could.
No.
But for me, I want my board to be made at that Wired factory.
Yeah.
Like, I want Rob to build it from wood that was, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, maybe.
You can tell the difference, trust me.
Can you? You think you can?
Okay,
well,
100%. I can grab a board and pretty much tell you what factory
if you
it's
flex
from.
it.
Or
just looking at the finishing.
Yeah, finishing, and my thing personally is inserts. I can tell what not all of them,
right?
But you can tell different factories from the inserts and how
thinking
clean
about
they are.
That Nitro Nidecker insert thing.
Yeah,
and
you can tell. There's a way to, and after it, because I started. I worked at Endeavor, right?
And, did you?
Yeah. No, did I say Endeavor? Sorry, cut that out. I worked at Invasion.
Invasion, right? With Shane.
Yeah.
And
you said Endeavor earlier.
Yeah.
With Shane and Corey.
Corey, yeah.
And that was high school, so that was when I was 16.
Those guys were doing really well. They were basically setting the blueprint for what you would do after, right?
Exactly. Yeah, those guys were they were the first ones to sponsor me. They were the first ones to give us jobs, and we worked there. And
rad. It
was sick. Like Joel Fraser worked there after me, but I was making I was a kid, 15 or 16, maybe 17, and I wasn't that good. We were making cap boards, and I was making the Rolling Rock boards, so I wasn't even allowed to make Invasion boards. I was Rolling Rock, so they get an order for whatever 100 beer boards, and they'd be like, Jeff, Viner, you guys got to make these things, and they'd be so bad, and then they got good because it's anything. Once you start making them, you start fine tuning your skill, and all of a sudden you're okay, moving on.
Yeah. So that's a good example too of if they would have been able to cross over into a China factory, I understand what that gives you, right? Rob can get a stack of boards from China that were designed here and that have all the dimensions of a board that rides really good. And so anyways,
the factory talk is hard.
The thing for me is that I worked for a distributed skimboards, which is not it's not a sexy board sport, but it's it was a small company, and I was bringing them up from California.
Cool.
And I happened to be there at the time where they switched from California and Mexican production to China, and so I quit. I just was fuck this.
Man, my second company ever was a skimboard company.
No way.
Yeah,
what was it?
We sold 2, probably, maybe 3.
What was it?
It was just us. My brother and I were just always starting companies. And
sick.
We started a clothing company that only sold at Second Wave, but it was only a T-shirt with 2 prints on it. And then we started a skimboard company because you're from North Van in the late 90s, early 2000s. You skimboarded. That's just the thing you did.
Yeah.
It was kind of funny because that's summertime. You you skateboarded and skimboarded, or just did one or the other. And we just we'd grab plywood and cut out our shapes, and then use surf glass on it. And we put it between 2 tables, and then we put weights on it and soak it to try to get a bend, and it actually worked. Some of them worked.
Yeah,
I think we only made 10 or 15, but we were
That's
there.
so rad.
It's so funny.
Rad.
It was probably nothing like what you're selling.
Well, I went to the number 1 skimboard manufacturer in the world, which was in California, and I went down and I got a contract. I signed all this stuff, and I was really excited about it. But when I quit doing it, what I should have done was I should have used my influence with the owner of that company to say, these Chinese-made boards are shitty.
Yeah.
And they're bringing down the name of your brand and the quality of your brand. And the factory that's making them is also selling them to anyone and putting whatever name they want on them. So you're kind of fucking yourself.
Yeah.
But I didn't get to say any of that stuff. So now with Rob, I'm going to kindly and gently say, if you can make a profit making boards in Vancouver, you should. But he doesn't want to be Chris Pryor. You know what I mean? He doesn't want to be like a high-end custom-made stuff.
But you don't have to be. Like, Pryor's Pryor. He was always, like, when did he start? Like, 89 or something
Probably.
like that. Like, he's a
probably
North Fan.
He was. He had a factory.
He had
in
a
North
big
Van.
factory.
Jason Bros worked there.
Yeah?
Yeah.
No way. See,
Yeah.
like, everyone has some route into a factory in Vancouver. Like, Rudder used to do work at Option.
Yeah.
Like, I used to go in and help out John Colvin and those guys at Option too, but not on the floor. More on the marketing side of stuff.
Right.
Anyway, factory. So, you talk to some people, and they'd be like, "It doesn't matter where your board's made."
It's true.
And then you talk to
people
other
feel that.
people, and you're like, "It matters."
That's the most important thing to me personally. So it's like a difficult thing for me to ride a board made in Vancouver.
Yeah.
And then tell people you got to buy these boards, and then
They're not made in Vancouver.
some of them aren't. Some of them
Yeah.
aren't. That's
See,
tough for me. But I mean,
that was the thing with dynos. It was like always supposed to be a North American made brand.
Okay.
And our first factory was in California.
yep.
And I care where our boards are made, and the material and craftsmanship that you get out of certain factories is better than others. I'll just leave it at that without like bad talking or anything like that.
Yeah. There's
And
no need, right?
a lot of those factories that are good are in Central Europe and in North America. Yeah,
Sure.
like there's still, there's still Utopia in Quebec, and that guy did Rome last year. Like
Rad.
he's still producing stuff. I don't know what he's up to now. And then there's like obviously Mervyn, which is like a powerhouse.
Have you been down there?
Yeah, it's so sick.
It's so sick.
Yeah, it's
What a
cool.
great vibe, and like just a good company.
Yeah,
Yep.
and then we're like,
Oh, did you hear about the Chinese board there? They had
No.
They had a mandate from up top. This is a long time ago. They said, listen, we're going to make a board in China. We're just going to do a tester. Can we make a LibTech board in China, and will people order it?
Mm-hmm.
So Mike and Pete designed a like $1,500 retail board and they put the shittiest graphic on it. It was just like, it was hideous and ugly and expensive.
like sabotage the idea.
Totally sabotaged the idea.
Sick.
They said we didn't get any orders for them, so we're gonna have to just kibosh that Chinese factory.
Those
idea.
guys are like amazing.
Yeah,
Just like
I love them.
their mentality and the
Yeah.
way they think, and like, it takes people like Mike and Pete to establish a standard that we all like, thrive for. And I don't think the industry would be where it is without them. And
It couldn't be.
yeah, and our boards aren't even like Mervin's, but like,
No.
you respect the company, and you might take something from them. Like people get that magnet traction and get. Is she just eating your toque?
I don't know whose tooth that is.
Yeah.
It's
Sorry,
done.
my pup's
It's
here.
toast.
She destroys everything. Yeah, like it's good. North American manufacturing. I wish we could have
You know
kept
what?
it.
If it was up to Pete and Mike, especially Mike, I think there would be a lot less competition, a little more cooperation and camaraderie in snowboarding.
Yeah.
I know that he. It's his story to tell, but basically, Jake was not very nice to him.
No, I have my thoughts on those guys, and we just keep it at that. And
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
about like in dynos, we are about building community. Everyone's like, dude, you guys have a core company. This is sick. I'm like, no, we don't have a core company. We have a community company. Like,
Yeah.
it's the most misunderstood thing about dynos. It's like, we're not these guys that are flexing of like, we're the most hardcore like people. It's
Right.
like, no, we're trying to build community. And the thing with community, it has to be a company our size to be able to do it and make it like I hate the word, but authentic. Like it's the worst. But to make it real.
Right. Right.
So like every event we have, like I don't care if friggin' and like a superstar shows up at any of our events. Like it's cool, but like to me that's not successful. If like
Right.
and like Terrier or like I don't even know, like I'm not even gonna say names now, but like if a superstar shows up at your event, to some people that's success. To me that's not. If like 15 kids drive from Washington State to BC and another crew from Alberta and then a bunch of local kids. And then you have a mix of kids and like, where are you from? Oh, I need to come to Stevens. That sounds sick. And then you just connected 3 different communities in one. To me, that's the success.
That was it. I in the early days at the Boardroom, I don't know if you'll remember this. Boardroom did a big air. Boardroom did a slope style.
Yeah.
And the first year it was the Boardroom Big Air, and it was at Cypress, Grouse, and Seymour.
Yeah.
And then they had to just pick one and go with it.
Yeah.
But the original idea, and I was a part of the group that was working on it, but my idea for that was that it should be free for pass holders from all mountains to go to the event at all 3 mountains. So, like, if you're a Seymour guy, you're going to go to Cypress for this one event and build that community, and go to Grouse for that one event, build that community, and those guys are going to come to the Seymour event. Like, it was supposed to be a locals contest, whereas the other guys, Pear and Murray, were like, we want to attract the big guys, and let's bring down people from Whistler. And the way to do that is put up a big cash prize. And then, and once it went that way, for me personally, I was like, oh, that's a bummer for me, because I'd like to see everybody at all the mountains kind of like, you know, checking out the other mountains.
Exactly.
It'd be fun.
Yeah.
But
and that's when,
yeah.
I feel like that's when there was kind of that, like, every mountain had its own crew. And every crew were friends, but everyone had, like, this, like, half-ass grudge against each other. Like, it was just like,
totally
I'm from
true.
Seymour, from Grouse.
Yeah.
I did the first one here. I think I got a photo in North Shore News.
Sick.
I have it still. It's hilarious. So I did the contest till the end, and I remember the last one on Seymour. It was like even Johnson was in it, which is hilarious.
Wow.
Yeah,
That
I
is
remember
amazing.
him like doing a method and then eating shit. I think maybe that could be in Skids 1.
Wow.
There could be footage of that. I don't.
Oh yeah, it made it into the Skids.
Okay,
I can
then
remember that.
then it was like that was probably the last one at Seymour, the last Boardroom at Seymour, and Johnson has a good bail clip in that.
The first one that I think the first one, don't eat the battery. The first one at Seymour, Nix came down.
Yes.
And Nix was announcing it.
Yeah.
And Murray was losing his mind. He was like, what is this guy? He's rude and he's insulting people.
Yeah.
And you know, the crowd, there wasn't that big of a crowd, but the riders were loving it.
That's the culture.
Yeah, it was culture. It was good.
That's like Seymour. They're like they're anti-Heenahan on the mic, and I'm like, dude, give Heenahan a beer and let that Irish flow. Like, I want to hear it. You know, you can get him not cussing, and you can get him like that, and you can just have that guy's so funny, so he can just be on the mic and like ripping a guy apart, and then at the same time, that kid he just ripped apart is like, they're best friends and hugging afterwards.
Yeah,
and like
yeah.
That stuff cool.
Nix was doing that for sure. I mean, he did get into the insulting a little bit. I can remember that somebody came from Cypress and they had like 0-0 27-inch stance.
Okay.
So they hadn't got the memo that the stances had come in a little bit.
Yeah.
And he's like, it says here he's from Cypress. Could have guessed that or whatever. He was really ribbing on the guy. And I think that was, Murray was like, we got to get him to say the names of the sponsors. What the hell? Dude,
let it flow.
It was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun to see the juxtaposition of like people trying to organize a professional event and someone like Nix who just understands what the fuck snowboarding is.
Yeah.
And he's like, this is a small event with 100 competitors having fun. Let me just talk.
Yeah. I feel like there's a push to like bring the Whistler scene down here so many times, and you're like, this isn't Whistler, this is not the same. Like it's like full circle in our conversation. We talk about Whistler and how, you know, sometimes it's hard to find powder there, sometimes it's like this, but like, man, that scene is cool. There's like kids like the Chaumac brothers and like a bunch of just like that whole crew. I think they're the Smiths. I think they call it the Smiths. There's like all these kids that are growing up there, and they're not these rich kids that everyone expects them to be. They're just like living in the mountains. Their mom and dad they're in the mountains. They're working and they're in the mountains. And these kids are like snowboarding and they're getting so good. And each one has their own natural style.
Rad.
And it's not the same as the brother. It's not the same as like what people expect Whistler to be. So in ways, Whistler's a beast that everyone wants to knock down. But when you're in the scene, it's not what people think it is.
Right.
Yeah, because like JF Pelchat's there with his 2 girls, and those girls are like the future of snowboarding.
Yeah,
like,
they were.
Not just guys, not just girls. So girls and guys. Those girls have like a flow to them from their dad that's like, I look up to it. Like, I'm like, dude, you're like ripping down the mountain full speed and like flying off jumps. This is what you should be doing, you know? Screw the like double corks and whatever else.
Right. How you? So how did your brother? And how did it affect you when your brother's A team for Burton? What were you doing at that point? Like, did he surpass you as a competitive snowboarder?
No, he surpassed me early. But I say that, but it's different.
Okay.
I never have never did I ever have like remorse or like animosity or anything like that, because his like that kid was, it didn't matter what he was going to do. It was like if it was skating, if it was snowboarding, it didn't matter. He was just good all the time. And he got on.
You know what? Sorry, before you say that, now that I think of it, the younger brothers are always the better brothers.
Yeah, they are,
because they're chasing that.
Yeah,
they're chasing the older brother. The older brother's like taking it easy, just like, oh yeah, I love this. Yeah. But the younger brother's like hungry.
Yeah, it's like Matt and Temple, and then the Cass brothers and us, and But to me, Brendan's insane. That guy's like the most naturally talented human, and he went from one track to probably Burton. I think it was like that quick. I don't think he had like sponsors in between. I think he just straight up was like, Martino was like, this, like probably at like 15 or something. He's like, this kid guy has style. Like, I don't even know if he saw tricks. He just saw him riding down the hill. And they're like, this is like the most current. This is before current, and then current style. So he was on Burton, and he climbed up that ladder quick, and then he was on A team. Like, he had a board called the Farm, and it was like him and one other guy, and it was like in the catalog, like Burton Global catalog, this is Brendan Keenan and I forget who else's board, the Farm, and they like designed it into that, and it was like like he was on it, he was in it, and then Burton did one of their sweeps, and he kind of got caught in that and was off. But like,
is that like pre-7, or is that like around that time?
Right at the same time.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. It's like, no, it was like a little middle, because I think it was like right after Jason went and did his thing with Capita. Yep. And then, that's exactly when it was. And then, but like that guy, it doesn't matter what or where he is, he can like adapt to a situation and do it. Like, say it's a backcountry jump and like people were starting to do doubles. He's like, you know what? I'm not doing a double. I'm doing like, these guys are doing double 10s. I'm doing a flat 10, and I'm going to do it my way. And then he'll do it, and it'd be like this. It would look the best of anything anyone's done for that day. I'm like, how do you do that? And I don't even know if he tries. He just like does it.
Has there ever been talk of you putting him on the team?
Well, he's a cabinet, like he's a cabinet maker now. So like all that stuff happened. He wrote for Battalion Pro for like 2 or 3 years and filmed for Given in that series. And then he just kind of like, it just wasn't working. Like, he was getting frustrated, mentally frustrated more than he was getting rewarded. And he had an opportunity to chase a girl down the States, and he took that. Because like I said, we're from Baker, and this girl lived in Bellingham, and that kind of opens that door. And you know what? Like, the guy is a piece of the Baker locals now, and like Gary and Pat and all those, Timmy and all those guys. Like, there's a good local scene down there right now that there hasn't been for like a few years. Like, there's always the underground scene, like Donkey and Nate and those guys, but the crew now is really good. And Brendan's up there on weekends, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or whatever, and he's with those guys.
That's sick.
Ripping, or he's with his own crew ripping, and you know what? That guy snowboards or surfs or whatever, and it's the same thing to him. He's getting rewarded more now than when he was sponsored in his later years. Yeah,
I think being a sponsored rider is difficult. What the fuck? That's the most obvious statement ever.
Well, I live with it, man. Yeah. Like, people think it's this glorified thing, and it's not. Like my girl's gone through ups and downs, and she's one of the lucky ones that have had a career that's lasted a lot, but she's had to like kind of take her career and keep on pushing it forward. Yeah. And she's had issues with like team managers just like hating women and being dude, there was a point in like 2000 that's like, oh, you're a girl snowboarder and you're like 30, you're out of here. Or like, you don't hit rails, so you're not marketable. It's like, nah, that's not true. It's like, man, who are you selling snowboards to? You're selling snowboards to snowboarders and girls snowboard. It doesn't matter what their age is. That's like, it's the same story about my brother. Like, you're like, that guy could be sponsored and he could ride for anyone and he could film a video part right this second. Like, that's how good he is and that's what he is. Like, he might need to, like, get in shape. I'll call him out. I'm his older brother. Like, this is fine. Yeah. But he can go do that. And people are like, well, he's old. But you're like, no, he's not old. And who buys snowboards right now? Like, honestly, 35-year-old guys buy snowboarders. And if I'm 35 and I'm older than 35, and when I look at people, I'm not always looking at that kid. I'm looking at people my age. If someone my age is doing something sick, and I like that way that guy's going to snowboard, and I look at the board he rides, and that I'm like, ooh, maybe that board will work for me. Yeah. You're marketing a 36-year-old to a 36-year-old. Age doesn't matter. This whole like thing of like, get rid of the old, bring in the new is such garbage.
It's been going on for a really, really, really long time.
And then it's ending. Like, that's the one good thing about this, like, Patagonia, North Face, Arc'teryx thing. Like, a lot of people in our industry are, like, cringe or, like, give it the bad shoulder. But, hey, guess what? They're breaking the mold for a longer career in snowboarding because they're teaching our community that you can be older and be a pro athlete.
Relevant pro athlete. Yeah. It's happened in other sports. For whatever reason, snowboarding's always tried to go to the next thing. Yeah, really quickly.
Which is dumb. It's like getting into it. I don't know. Like, now I enjoy watching. Like, I'm in. Yeah, my girl, because of who she is and what she does, we
should say her name so people know. Yeah, not everybody knows.
Yeah, Leanne Pelosi.
Yeah. And she rips.
Yeah, she's a legend.
And she's a big part of that, of the Full Moon crew, right? Yeah, she's a founding member. She's
the founding. Well, like, Full Moon's Runway, which I founded with her, but I did that. We did 2 movies, and like at the start of Dinos, that was like my money making thing. Mm-hmm. I say that money making very loosely. It was my thing that was like paying some bills.
Sure.
And it almost like broke. It like separated us. Like we were like done at the end of it. So I'm like, I can't run this company with you. Like this is not the way it's going to be. So we killed it, and then she brought it back to life. Yeah. And then she brought it back to life with all her friends.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I see them riding in Whistler, or we rode with them a few times, maybe before they did the movie. And the vibe's so good.
It's good. All it takes, like, honestly, I'm like, man, if we had the money when Form was around, like, if we had that 90s money and we had that marketing energy, you can take a crew like that and then be like, dude, you're like this girl, you're this girl, and let's like easy. Blow this up. Yeah. And like we don't have that money in snowboard now to create these stories, so it's up to us to create these stories. And with like the noise of Meet Social and everything now, it's harder to make these stories. But like, I don't know, I'm a big, like, I read a lot of, I used to read a lot of books, and like I'm a big Hemingway fan, and like and like Jack London and stuff like that. And those, to me, those stories were all like legendary stories. Like they could have been told like 5 generations deep. But like the thing with generational deep stories, it creates living legends. So like what snowboarding's always created is those legends, the ones through storytelling. Yep. Except for when the Forum era was here, that was the marketing power of storytelling. That's like the Harry Potter shit. That's like you're creating something really quickly and exploding that. And like there's a place for both of those things. And I wish like right now, if we had some of that in our, maybe we need an injection of that into our community, into snowboarding. because it'd be interesting. I'd like to see what would happen. I'd like to see what it would be.
Hold on. There we go. We got sidetracked
Yeah.
by the Olympics. I think we did. Honestly, I think that became this pinnacle, right? Like, so snowboarding's chasing legitimacy and the next thing, and acceptance at ski hills, and then acceptance in mainstream or whatever. And when we got it, which was the Olympics, all eyes kind of shifted to that story. Who's going to win the next Olympics? Who's going to be on the American team? Who's going to be this and that? And we lost that lore, like the Forum 8, and that like where marketing could actually create these fun stories. So I fully agree with you. I've been thinking a lot about the Forum 8 because I was supposed to interview Duffy over the weekend.
Oh, cool.
Just didn't happen. And I wanted to interview all of them throughout the year because, holy shit, that was just a happening in snowboarding, right?
And I feel like kids, like, it's such a piece of our history now. And it's so weird to say that because we lived through it and it wasn't history. It's such a piece of our history now that kids are actually thinking about that. Yeah. They're actually looking back at those things, and they're actually like going through YouTube and watching foreign movies, and they're actually like being like, who the hell are these guys? What is the story? Like, you know, everyone kind of keeps Jeremy Jones and JP at the like Forum 8 at the Forum 8 pinnacle because those guys are still like getting marketing push behind them. So like they were still kind of in the light a bit. But the other, well, and Devin too. So I should never forget that. But there's like so many more people on that team, like Malamie, who was my favorite, and and tons of people throughout the years. That's like
and Duff, cool. Like Duff's story is insane.
That's
man.
A whole different level.
I know, right?
That's like, the Duffy story is like you can make a Hollywood movie out of that.
You could.
Yeah, and not have it cheesy.
Yeah. And even Peter, like, I love Peter's style.
Yeah.
Peter was my favorite for a number of years in those Mac Dog movies. Just, he's quirky in the way that I think, oh, yeah, that's, like, cool and funny and weird and different. Like, his style was completely his own.
Yeah.
But then people would copy it and then build on it.
Yeah.
And then even with talking with him, he's like, I was just copying Jamie.
Yeah.
You know?
But he says that, but look at those two methods. They're not anything alike.
There's nothing about them that's even similar.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
But it's funny. It's like, this is a little side thing that I like always play with. It's like, everyone's like, yeah, Jamie's method's the sickest. And I'm like, I agree with you. But it's not like, to me, a true Northwest method is like behind the front binding with a tail kicked above your head and the nose pointing down.
Right.
That's a Northwest method.
Right.
Jamie's wasn't quite like that. And it's like, by no means am I even like remotely talking shit. I'm not.
No.
Because I like think his method is like, was time changing for sure. Like, this is like the sickest thing ever.
Yeah.
But like a Northwest method, like to me, is like that method. And then when I think about Peter, he had this like weird, like, it was almost like he'd go Tina and then all of a sudden like crank it like lean. He was like always doing the leans.
It's true.
And then like the leans were like kind of a mix between Jamie and Temple's like cranked out method. So that's like my like methodology.
I love that. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
That's so much fun. Yeah, picking it apart like that because I'm a fucking snowboard nerd. That's what it comes down to. Nerding out on snowboarding is the fucking best.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah. So,
how did you decide to start dynos? I remember when you did, and I remember the name and it being clunky and long, and me thinking like, "What the fuck is he thinking with the name? That name is crazy."
Yeah.
And now when I see DWD. I'm like, your branding is dead on.
Yeah.
The guys that ride for you are fucking phenomenal. And the board designs are fucking awesome. You feel that community.
Yeah.
Like my kid works at Boardroom now. He was there for the PK.
Oh, cool.
And he came away from all that PK season going, I think I want a dynos.
Yes.
Like he gets it. Like there's something more there than just a brand with ads in a magazine.
Well, we don't shove anything down people's throat. Let's just start that from the beginning. Dynos, like the story's been told 100 times, so I don't want to tell that. But like Jeno is the man behind the branding and the thing with like an influence from myself and the team riders. He takes his art and adapts it and makes it onto the boards. I tried that for a bit.
Yeah.
And I got to a point, I'm like, I can't do this. I'm like, I suck. So the branding side is, that's a lot of Sean's work, and it's sick. But like the whole idea of the company, to quickly sum it up, because it's been said a bunch, it's like Dinosaurs Will Die. It's a NoFX song. It's a part of the record industry and what's going on and how those that don't evolve die. And it just hit us. Like, we both had sponsors. We both like we both wrote for Coastal Riders, and we both talked about creating a company at that time. And we're like, well, man, let's like try to do something different. And we were just sitting down having a beer at lunch, and that came out. The Dinosaurs Will Die. That idea of like, the more you evolve, the more you are your own thing, the less you're going to copy people. When you stop evolving is when you start copying, and that's when you kind of start dying, for the lack of words. So like, sure, so those that don't evolve die. Dinosaurs will die. Dinosaurs. A lot of people at first were like, "Oh, you're talking about Burton and you're talking about all this stuff." It's like, no, we're not talking about anyone. We're not putting everything out. We're putting the idea out of like, you have to constantly be thinking and changing, and the more you do that, the more you survive in this. And so that name came out, and I still go to the bank, and the banker's like, "What the hell are you doing here?" And then I'm like, "Oh yeah," I'm like, "It's DWD for short, but like it's Dinosaurs Will Die. It's the same thing." Like, And then we kind of, through what I was talking about before, building community over Ultra Pros wasn't our goal. Like, we didn't set out to do that. It's what we were already doing. That's how we lived. And that's kind of how our team came about. And the guys that came about were like the ones that like were striving for being a part of something. Maybe it was something they saw, like the Form 8 crew, because we keep on talking about that, or they see these teams or these crews and they're like, well, these guys are like open to everyone. Like, we're not judging anyone. Let's go hang out with these guys. And then we'd mob to a resort, and all of a sudden, like, you start out with like 5 people, and at the end of the day there's like 15, and like, or there's 50. Like, that's how our crew is. Like if I ever had anyone in our crew bad talk anyone, I'd be like, pull them aside and be like, hey, you can't be like that. Like, we're like all together here. And like, I think anyone that is a part of Dinos, I know everyone that's a part of Dinos thinks that way. Like, you see, like, the best is Jeeves, like, favorite snowboarder ever, love the kid. He's like my little brother, he's so rad. But like, everyone thinks he's like the hardest guy, and he's like one of the softest guys. And he'll like see a kid, and he'll just like reach out and like be like, hey man, like, you should do this, or like, what about this, and just like kind of open up to them. And like, that's Dinos.
That's North Van style, dude. Like, Chalmers at Griffin or Sansalome with you guys. Like, it's just like, there's always been this community of cool fucking people. Yeah,
product of your environment.
That, right? You might be like, oh my God, that's, so-and-so I saw in the fucking magazine. And they'll not only will they acknowledge that you're there, they'll probably remember your name, but they're going to go to that kid and that new mom that's at the skate park or at the mountain and say like, hey, we should tweak your shit a little bit. Yeah. That'll make it a little bit easier for you to learn. You can see your kids struggling there. Yeah. Get rid of that Walmart board I saw. Yeah,
that's Seymour style, though. Yeah, it's like, I don't care who. I remember, like JP would always come up here in the mornings and, like, snowboard by himself. I'm like, dude, wrong mountain, man. Like, no one cares here. Like, maybe that's not what he's doing, but in my mind, that's what he's doing. So, like, no one cares who you are here. Like, this is, like, you can be anything and do anything here. You're welcome. Like, people don't care. They're not going to say anything. It's just what it is.
Yeah. I remember riding with Devin really early, and not just Devin, that whole crew.
Yeah.
Really early, and they were very creative and very self-critical of the tricks that they were doing, and very nonconformist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there wasn't a lot of like, you know, oh, other people are doing this, so we should do that. They were always. I can remember Devin working on switch methods in 95, 94 or something.
Up Brockton, probably.
Yeah, just like working on them, and me being like, a method? Like, why aren't you working on something more difficult than that? And he was like, you think that there's something more difficult than a switch method? There isn't. It's so fucking hard.
Unless it's Jeeves.
Yeah, right.
He's probably the only guy ever.
Unfucking real. Yeah. So you've got a great team. But I remember one of the breakout things about your company was that you weren't afraid to take risks with shapes of boards.
Yeah.
It wasn't always the way it is now.
No.
Like everybody was twin tip there for a fucking very long time.
Yeah. Without claiming, I don't know. So
I think that you can claim a little bit. I really do.
The wizard stick, it comes from the the wizard stick. It came from the skateboard. It came from the Rip Singer, is what it did. And we were like,
which is that
the pointy was a crooked skateboard that they made for a while.
Right.
And it's just it's a beer runner, but kind of cool.
Yeah.
No, super cool. And we were looking at that, and we're like, man, we need to make something like that. And we talked about it for a year, and we're like, we can't sleep on this. We need to jump on this.
Yeah.
So we came up with the nose, and we're like, oh man, this is cool. It's like a pointy nose. Like, this is going to get kicked off the mountain everywhere. And then we're like, we told Lucas, Willette, and a few other people, and Lucas just like took his rat and just like bandsawed this pirate ship of a board. It had the gnarliest pointy nose. The tail was like all these like sharp points, and we're like, this is what we're talking about. This is the start. And he rode it all summer. We were digging at COC. He rode it all summer, and then he brought it to a few resorts, and then he actually got the board taken away. And we're like, this is perfect. This is it. This is the marketing power. This is everything.
Yeah.
So we made the board, and the board was coming out. So we had the idea, and then he just solidified it. And then, so what the secret of that board is twofold. It's a twin chassis, and we say it's a true twin, and everyone's like, it's not, but we say it is for the reason of it. And then we take what we cut off the tail is exactly what we put on the nose, and then we take the tail and we add.
Okay, so first I almost dropped the mics on the floor, and then at this point I run out of tape, and I don't even notice for 15 minutes. So we lose a bunch of Jeff passionately talking about the design of Dinosaurs Will Die boards. It's a bummer for me to know that, you know, he was talking about where the inspiration for the shape of the Reaper comes from, the POW Reaper, which is skateboarding, and just how Dinos was like ahead of the curve on the shapes thing. I think it's safe to say they were one of the first production boards with like really aggressive shapes before the whole industry started doing crazy shapes. I'm sorry I messed that up. I want you to check out dinosaurswilldie.com and then watch for demos of Dinosaurs Will Die boards, DWD boards, anywhere that you ride. You know, we'll pop back into the conversation talking now about how DWD tries to protect brick and mortar retailers. So a shop that carries your boards signs an agreement to not ever sell them for less than what going rate is.
Exactly. So it's a MAP agreement, manufacturer's advertising price. So you can sell it, but you can't advertise it. So say you're boardroom and you're selling Wizard Stick, and some guy's in the shop and he's like, oh, I'm going to check online for a cheaper one, and he goes online with this MAP agreement. Technically they shouldn't be able to find that board cheaper anywhere.
Right, but what if somebody says, we're going to give you a free pair of gloves with that board? And plus, like you said, you're not able to just police it because it's such a big fucking thing.
It's hard.
And who says he's not buying it in New Zealand or some other, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like all over the place.
I know. And it's like, and I always say Americans should be shopping in Canada. Like, man, you're getting 30% off right now if you shop in Canada, but they don't do it.
Right.
But the Canadians will shop in the U.S. because that's like.
Isn't that weird?
It's the way.
It's backwards.
It's the way that our countries are run.
Yeah.
That Canadians have always gone in the States to get product maybe they couldn't get or something. So
Yeah.
and then they'd be like, oh man, Jordans, you can get them here for like a little bit cheaper or something like that. And then like,
I still do it, man. I buy shoes at the fucking Nike outlet every
Yeah.
time I go down to Oregon.
Yeah.
And I'd never do the math because whenever I do, I'm like, I fucking just rookied myself.
exactly, it's the same price here.
It's so much cheaper here even because
Yeah.
I think, oh, I got a pair of $50 shoes. Okay, well, add 30% to that. That's
Yeah.
another $15. It's $65 shoes plus tax plus fucking shit.
Yeah, you get
They're
work.
cheaper here.
Yeah, Americans should be shopping in Canada.
Yeah,
Go
they
do
should for sure.
You know, do it all, whatever. Yeah, but that gets us to that conversation of like, there's a big push in retail right now, and they're always talking about like shop local, shop at your local snowboard or shoe shop or clothing shop or snowboard shop local, and then they place that, and then as a small brand owner in like Dow owning Wired, he's a local shaper in my eyes.
Yeah.
Where do you see Dow's boardroom, but like maybe not other snowboard shops? So like, if you're saying shop local, that shop has an obligation to buy local, and they don't do that. And when some do, when I say they don't do that, I'm not blanketing everyone, because like boardroom and shops in the States, like Evo and things like that do that. But there's so many shops that are like, buy local, shop local, and then you go in there and you just see a wall of Burton, and you're like, dude, you're preaching one thing and then doing something else on your end. So you're trying to get your customers to shop local, but then you're not supporting small snowboard companies, or you're not supporting local shapers. Like, I want to go to Alberta and see Vega boards all over the place, or I want to go to Tahoe and see a local shaper all over the place there. But it doesn't work that way, and like, these shops need to be called out, or they need to like practice what they preach. And if they do that, then brands like DWD and brands like IPP and brands like Wired and Vega, and I'm really going Canadian here, but like, these brands are going to grow exponentially because the local shops and local within a province or within a country are supporting them.
Well, you're coming from a unique perspective too, where because you as a person are involved in a cool community.
Yeah.
And I mean, we had a cool community in Sudbury, Ontario.
Yeah.
But like, getting my mom to buy a full price anything was like, it was so fucking hard. I remember growing up not supporting my local shop, not because I didn't want to, but just because like fucking financial shit that I had no control over it. You know, my parents had that mentality of like, if we're getting a deal, we'll buy it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
like, I couldn't say
now.
like, hey, it's my fucking friend's shop.
Yeah.
His mom is working her ass off. They're trying to sell, you know, if they sell 20 snowboards a year to the 20 snowboarders in our town, they'll stay afloat. But if I buy mine, it's 3 hours away when we're on vacation because we got it for 20% off or whatever. Like, I'd rather give that 20% to those guys, but it's not mine to spend. Like, so, I mean, shout out to Joel Seymour saying Skaters Pro in Sudbury, Ontario. They were the fucking real deal. And I lived there the whole time, and I really didn't support them like I should have. And it's a shame now. And I'm learning as I'm older, you know, a lot of times, like, fuck, I don't need next year's model. What I want is something that I'm proud of to put on the rack of my car.
Hell yeah.
When I show up, when I was in Revy and someone said, that's the first Wired board I ever saw. I was like, it's made right in fucking Vancouver.
Exactly.
And he's like, I know, I've looked it up. And I was online, and I was in Vancouver, and I went by the factory, and those guys were really nice. Like, that's what snowboarding is.
Yeah.
Is that same mentality of like, this is a fun thing to do, and if you have any questions, just ask any of us.
Yeah.
Because that's the fucking way it's always been.
And we're here. Like, I know people think like snowboard shops are intimidating, or like people are intimidating. It's like, just reach out. Like, maybe you find a bad apple, but go to the next person, because like, honestly, we're here to like be a part of the community and build this community and like help out anyone and everyone. And that's like the key to having snowboarding keep evolving the way we want it to evolve and not to die. And that's it, you know?
Yeah, man. I agree with you there. Totally. Has it really changed that much? Like when you think about the first time
it's not changed.
The first season you snowboarded and this season, it's kind of my priorities have shifted more into the powder kind of thing. Yeah. But I still want to hit a cliff. I still want to hit, like if the cliff is hittable, I'm hitting it. Yeah. If there's a jump there, I want to try something new on it. Yeah.
Your knees to get like worked and stuff like that.
I'm lucky. I've been fairly healthy that way.
Yeah. It's good. Oh man, like there's like guys like Des Price and like older quote unquote dudes that are still like I can see that guy doing a back rodeo anytime. Like it doesn't matter. It's
crushing.
Age is not real.
Oh, there's a lot of guys. Like you take a Devin. I was riding with Nico and Terry. Yeah, both those guys are just, they see the mountain differently.
Yeah.
But it's cool to see those guys doing the little mountain thing that we're doing. Like going and getting the gram and getting the shot. And then you see the shot and you're like, oh my God, that's fucking, I was there. That's crazy. They're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And then some laps they're riding fast and like, do you ride that fast in Whistler, like fucking Whistler riders that ride like insanely, stupidly fast?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, you gotta. I have my way of riding,
right?
Which is like my way, and like I'm not like claiming anything or anything, and I get on a mountain, and all I see is like hits, because I'm from Seymour and it's like side hits everywhere, so all I see hits. So I'm just like going as fast as I fucking can, and I'm hitting something left, right, center, like deking through trees, finding like a tree to jump off, going straight to a cliff from there, linking things up. Like that's how I look at it, like a mini training skate park, and I want to hit everything all the way to the bottom.
That's rad.
But I'm not bombing runs. I'm not bombing groomers. I'm not like going from one park jump to another as fast as I can. I look at it like bowl skating, and that's kind of how I snowboard. It's like
rad,
fast and controlled, and trying to get the most out of what's in front of you than it is trying to get to the bottom at the quickest time ever.
Right. Yeah, I remember the first time I ran into that was at Whistler. Like it kind of like, oh, I got here first kind of thing. I'm like, yeah, but you didn't hit anything.
Yeah, that's not the way to do it.
That's totally not the way to do it. What are you doing? Like, it's not about who can go the fastest. But then for that guy, I mean, that's the owner of the boardroom. That was his thing.
Yeah.
He held I asked him about this the other week. He held like a Canadian national downhill speed record in skiing. So like when you have gone like 100 miles an hour on your skis or whatever, and like you're just like holding on your grip and you're like, fuck dude, you just went like 10 miles faster than anyone else. Like then that's your mentality. So that's fun for him to go just like top to bottom. He's not looking to hit jumps and shit like that.
Yeah, no.
So that's fine. But it's not that's not me for sure. I always feel like I'm on the edge of like a fucking major crash that would kill me. I don't want to be out.
I've seen my friends get like wrapped around trees and stuff
badly
like that,
hurt.
and it's not cool.
No.
It's like there has to be a limit. There has to be some control, and
it's got to be always in control.
Yeah, that's like So yeah, I know we've been talking a lot, but this is like a little story, and it's like of Gerhard Gross. He was riding Whistler when I was riding Whistler in like 97 or 8, and we were hiking Seventh Heaven, and I met him like, where are you from? He's like, Bella Coola. I'm like, oh, that's crazy. I don't even really know. I'm like, oh yeah, I know where that is. Thinking about geography. We hit something, and then our time in Whistler was never together. And then years later, he was working for Trans World, and we were at Bachelor. And I was ripping, and he's like, man, it's like, you ride fast, like you know how Whistler people just bomb stuff all the time. I'm like, yeah. He's like, you ride fast, but you're not like racing anywhere. I'm like, yeah. He's like, do you ever want to just take a second to like slow down and see things? Because that was his perspective. He wanted to like slow down and look around and see things. And I'm like, Yeah, that's for the chairlift, and I want to like go to a good speed and like lay down a carve or like hit something, and then I want to like be peaceful on chairlift and kind of look at the mountains and do that stuff. Yeah, but like I love that attitude. Everyone's different, but everyone has a similar idea, and I think it was a cool moment of Gerhard because like he passed away this year, and it was like hard hit for the community, and just to like think about those type of things is always cool. Yeah.
That's so rad.
Yeah.
I definitely, I think my very first, can you fucking believe where we are? Like, can you believe this moment happened on Seymour? Like when we moved out here from Ontario, and we just felt like we're in the big city, and we're all grown up, and we're riding, and someone said, "Hey, look back." You know, it was like a night.
Oh, the classic.
Yeah, the classic. Just, hey, look back, and then you go, "Oh my, oh,
the
what?"
city's twinkling, and
It's
like,
so
oh my god,
dope. Yeah, that was it for us.
See, you just like encapsulated that experience, and that's Seymour. The place is magical. Like we're in a friggin' cabin in the woods that was like could have been from like when the Chinese and Japanese World War II came up here and built a bunch of these cabins. I don't know if this one is part of that. And they were up here living, and then some people were just trappers, and some people were other things. But like, we're in a cabin in the woods on Seymour. This is like the place. This is like, there's magic in these mountains. Like, truly like good energy in this at this mountain. And I think that experience of going up the lift and someone being like, "Look back," is a classic Seymour moment that every single Seymour local has gone through multiple times, and it never gets old.
It never does.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's fucking sick.
Cool.
Yeah, you know what? Getting into those peaks too, like, because first time I went up there was with Jamie Sherritt, who's a Deep Cove boy, and then I did a bunch of times that one year with Yurley Ricker.
Yeah, he was a classic.
Yeah,
9 covers in 1 month.
It's
not 9.
Yeah,
but
it was 3 in 1 month.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah,
and we would go up there and just look around, and that doesn't exist on either of the other 2 mountains.
No.
It doesn't exist in Whistler.
No, it doesn't exist at all. We camp up there. Like, we'll go up there once a year, and usually for our quarter pipe or for something, and camp there. And one year we saw the Northern Lights out the north, like over Indian Arm. And, like, dude, this place doesn't get old. It keeps on giving. The more you give, the more you get back. And Seymour's that place. The more snowboarders give to this place, the more it gives back. And I'm not talking about the resort. I'm talking about like the whole thing here. Yeah. And the peak is magical. And no one goes up there anymore. Well, now there's a generation that does, but for like a few years it died. Yeah. And then now people are going back up, and like there's big lines up there. There's big cliffs up there. There's big hips up there. There's cool crap up there.
So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's such a cool. That's a great day to be in the mountains on, say, a Bluebird day, and there's POW up there, and you're just going, oh, we could build a feature off of that. We could jump off of this. Yeah. City Booter is insane. Sunset. Yeah. Oh, it's just insane.
Yeah, it's cool. And man, the list of tricks that have gone down here in Video Part 2, like
people would come down from Whistler to film here.
Yeah. And Peter Lyon would come up from Washington to film here, and like is a beast.
Dave Lee and Joey McGuire and that whole Northwest crew.
I think that's something very Seymour is naming jumps off after people.
Yeah, like, it is.
There's Cashin. There's Dave Lee. There's McGuire. There's Holopoff. There's God, I don't even think. But you know what's funny? I say all those names, and like besides Cashin, none of those guys are locals. So it's like it's kind of funny.
There's
Kearns is local though. Yeah, Makepeace is like he had his time here, which is sick. Yeah, that guy. I love riding with that guy.
I've never,
really?
No, I've never, but I've seen his ride, and he's fucking awesome.
Yeah, he has it. He has that magic for sure.
Yeah, it's always a good day when you get to ride with someone with that.
Yeah,
hey,
yeah,
that's just like, oh fuck,
it's cool. It's cool. That guy's a living legend.
Sick. Well, let's get the fuck out of here. I'm getting cold.
Cool.
Jeff, thank you so much for doing the show.
Yeah,
is there anything you want to shout out other than dynos, which is...
No, just like thanks to all the shops, anyone that bought a dyno. Like, that's it, you know. Support like what you believe in. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if it's a board company. It doesn't matter what. Just like be cool, be open.
Fuck yeah.
Don't be a dickhead.
Right on. FNRad shoutouts this week to Anson, Gord, Steve, and Craig for the amazing time we had in Revelstoke Mountain Resorts last weekend. Thanks, guys. Special thanks to Kevin Manuel, the marketing director at Revelstoke, for the tickets. Okay, you guys are the ones who listen to the end, and a few of you are wondering who won the backpack. So here it is. Mike Smelting, Tobias Deutsch, and Lepo. You three won the backpacks. Get in touch with me on the FNRad Instagram account so I can get your shipping details. And Go Nuts for Donuts and Mike Green, you guys can choose from a Burton Toque, an Anon t-shirt, or a Tribute Board Shop hat. So you two hit me up on Insta as well. That's right, I gave away the 3 Decline backpacks this weekend. And some more swag. I'm just buying myself some time before I have to do another one of these draws. We still have some stuff to give away. So, you guys all hit me up on Instagram. We'll get you all sorted out. Thanks for listening, and be sure to come back next week for another episode of the FNRad Snowboarding Podcast, brought to you by SIA Productions.